sitting. The Select Committee then tabled its report, convicting the minister of a misconduct and misbehaviour, a matter they have scrutinised for 15 days. Chairperson to the committee, Mwene Mpaka, reported that Namuganza transgressed Parliament and its integrity.
These amounted to contempt of Parliament. In conclusion, the matter raised in the interviews was obnoxious, reckless, insufferable, beyond the pale, and in per incuriam, it was an attack on the person of the Speaker, the Parliament without due regard to the rules of procedure, the protected status, the protected redress, the applicability of evidence, and the decorum of Parliament.
Mpaka told the committee that evidence found the minister guilty of failing on her duty in breaching the prescribed behaviour of legislators.
By attacking the impugned statements, the conduct of Honourable Namuganza amounted to gross misconduct and misbehaviour and was an affront to the dignity of Parliament. It denigrated public trust and confidence in the authority and integrity of the office of the Speaker, members and the institution of Parliament, and brought the House and its members into disrepute. Her conduct was in breach of the Code of Conduct for members of Parliament.
And while he read the report, there was unexplained excitement among MPs in the House as the Speaker struggled to keep the legislators calm. Legislators who were given chance to comment on the report did not spare the minister, whom they accused of indiscipline, having failed to appear before the committee.
Thank you, honourable colleagues. It's a painful job to do something we're going to do today.
Handing over the State Ministry of Lands to her is an insult to this country. She doesn't deserve to sit there anymore.
Shortly after, a motion was passed to vote out the minister. Of the 556 legislators present, 348 voted to throw out the minister, 5 voted against the motion, and 3 abstained.
Right Honourable Speaker, I vote yes.
Vote yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
MPs, including Buyende Woman MP Nakato Mary Annett, Moses Waliomu for Kagoma County, Katali Roy, Woman MP Jinja District, Odria Leon of Aringa South, were among those who voted against the motion, with only 3 abstaining.
I want to vote no, a big no.
I abstain.
For purpose of record, I, Leonie Odria, vote no.
And when all this was done, Deputy Speaker of Parliament Thomas Taiwa pronounced that the vote of censure had been passed, awaiting transmission of the same to the President in not less than 24 hours.
Having obtained the numbers required, that is more than half of the members of Parliament, as required under Article 118, Clause 1 of the Constitution, and meeting the threshold provided for under Rule 109, Sub-Rule 12 of our Rules of Procedure, Sub-Rule 13 of our Rules of Procedure, I hereby declare that the motion has been carried, that Honourable Namuganza passes, be censured, and as required under Rule 109, Sub-Rule 13 of our Rules of Procedure, I will inform the President accordingly. Those who have voted no are 5, and those who have voted yes to the motion are 348.
Persis Namuganza becomes the first minister in the recent times to be censured by Parliament after several attempts failing out. This is with the reasoning that it will help reinstate the esteem of Parliament. What remains questionable is whether this is actually action enough to reinstate the integrity of Parliament and clean it up. Shamim Nabakoza, NBS, live at 9.
After Parliament passed a motion to censure State Minister for Lands and Housing Persis Namuganza, a number of voters from her constituency of Bukono in Namtumba district accused Parliament of failing to concentrate on what they called other important issues of national importance instead of focusing on Namuganza. However, some welcomed the MP's action, saying the minister was indisciplined.
Can be done by the full minister.
But what they did today, if I was me, it's something which I can sit down with other leaders, which would, because you have leaders, you have Parliament, it has leadership, it has all the people. the president is there, we can sit in only 1 hour and solve the issue of Namuganza, other than using taxpayers' money to sit almost since they began this motion of censoring Namuganza. It may be taken either 1 billion shilling, if I'm right. So taking such a thing and they leave something which is bothering people. We don't have roads, good roads. We don't have medicine. We don't have what. Every MP, these MP have been voting yes or no. They have so many problems that they are in their constituency.
Buli kimu kibi mu Uganda muno aye weebuunya nti buli omu ali kwogera ku Namuganza. Namuganza olunaku lwaleero afuuse topic ate wiiki namba Namuganza ajja kuba topic. Wabula ni MP mulala ng'ewuwe mbi n'enjira egyewuwe mu maka ge yoonambi aye ng'ali kuvumirira Namuganza.
Nze ndikirizaganya n'ababaka ba paalamenti kye bakoze okutoola Paasisi Namuganza okumutoola mu obwesige. Asooka yika amaagali ago iwe buli muntu buli anavanga yanamulumbanga yamuvumanga yavuma Kadaga yavuma Kyabazinga buli muntu yena anamuvumanga anabanga mubi. Sipiika ono gwe bankalonda duzi yakobanga ati Kadaga n'omubi buti ono bamulonda ire ono kabiri yena aliko bati mubi kale ano ya mulungi n'aliga gwayenda
abisiisa mu bantu bangi amaiso naye wabula batyamenga batugwe batyaime olwaleero batuteekezenga kuku twena tufunenga kweneno mu madwaliro obulezi batulimirenga n'enguudo.
All right. Paasisi Namuganza is not the first minister to be censured. In the past parliament, we've seen a number of ministers censured, and I want us to go through all of them. As we see here, Major General Jim Muhwezi was censured in 1998. He was censured over abuse of office when parliament exercised its supremacy over the executive. We also have Sam Kahamba Kutesa, who was censured in 1999. But a year later, after he was censured for misuse of office and influence peddling. 152 MPs voted for his censure, while 94 supported him. We also have ministers who were forced to resign, and these include the late Chirunda Chivejinja in 1997. Then Works and Transport Minister was forced to resign after MPs collected signatures to censure him over accusations of diverting 2,000 litres of fuel from Uganda Railway under his ministry for personal use. We also have Matthew Ruchkeide, who was censured in 1997. Another resignation was in 1999, when the state finance minister in charge of privatization, Matthew Ruchkeide, resigned after Parliament cited irregularities in the privatization of 4 parastatals, including Uganda Commercial Bank. He was forced to resign. Kabakumba Matsuko in 2011, the then information minister Kabakumba Matsuko resigned when MPs had collected over 150 signatures out of the required 135 to censure her over allegations of stealing a UBC transmitter and broadcasting equipment. We also have Saida Bumba Kido Makubuya in 2012. The two resigned after MPs collected signatures to censure them over approving a controversial payment of 169 billion shillings to businessman Hassan Basaja Balaba. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, has warned ministers and government officials who refuse to appear before parliamentary committees whenever they are summoned, saying that such acts are contempt of Parliament. The Deputy Speaker, who was flanked by a number of legislators, says that the 11th Parliament will not tolerate such behaviour and are set to act on such errant ministers and government officials.
One of the grounds of Parliament censuring the State Minister for Housing, Paasisi Namuganza, was her continued abscondment from appearing before the Parliamentary Committee on Rules, Discipline and Privileges and that of the Select Committee instituted to assess her censure motion. Namuganza is not the only minister who refuses to appear before the Parliamentary Committee. According to Workers MP Margaret Rwabushaija, the Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, Betty Amongi, for the last 2 weeks refused to appear before the Parliamentary Committee on Gender, Labour and Social Development.
And he said he can never appear before Parliament. And the minister in charge also supported him, said, you can never appear.
The increasing habit of ministers refusing to appear before the parliamentary committees whenever summoned has attracted attention of the Deputy Speaker Thomas Taiwa, together with a number of legislators who say their failure is a sign of sabotaging parliamentary business.
That was the Rules Committee, which is a committee of parliament. You don't appear. You make us sit for 2 hours. And then they put a select committee, you don't appear.
When you're here, even when you're a backbencher, even when you're strong, even when you're just an innocent member of the public, please, just appear. And if Parliament, what they are saying is wrong, or what, challenge it.
They must appear before committees to answer queries and issues, and as expected. And they need to respect Parliament, because what members are always requesting for is simply accountability or responding to issues.
Parliament is a house of records and we legislate for the entire country. Therefore, we expect ministers to respect the institution of Parliament.
They have now sounded a warning to the ministers, saying censuring Minister Persis Namuganza should be a lesson to the rest to start respecting the rules of procedure of Parliament.
And I want to believe that today a very powerful message has been sent to ministers.
If one chooses not to appear, it shows a very bad public image out there.
And therefore, if you're a minister and you have taken that oath, and you go against your oath by attacking Parliament or refusing to come to Parliament, it is contempt of Parliament.
This should be a lesson to those who normally undermine appearance before the parliamentary committee. And they should take parliamentary work as a priority.
The warning also applies to some of the accounting officers or government officials who have refused to appear before parliamentary committee whenever summoned, saying it's a contempt of Parliament.
But for the other civil servants, this is a house of representatives. And therefore, for you to be summoned and you don't come to attend or appear in Parliament, it is contempt of Parliament.
For the technocrats, the PAs, if you have commitment somewhere, once you are invited by the parliamentary committee, you should not ignore. Parliament is very important. After all, the appropriation of funds in your ministry is being done by Parliament.
Alex Mugasha, Sam Ibanda Mugabi, NBS, Live at 9.
Now, for more discussion to that story, we're joined by Member of Parliament for Kazo County, Dan Chumosho, to throw some perspective into that story. Honourable, many thanks for joining us this evening. First things first, there are ministers that have been censured before and reappointed. Are you worried that this could happen again with Persis Namuganza?
Thank you very much, Canary, and our dear viewers. You know, it's not a big worry, because my worry would be that Parliament has not executed its work. What we wanted was to censure Namuganza so that it sounds a lesson to other members of community or even cabinet who think that they can contempt Parliament and go away with it. So I even don't mind whether she is reappointed or not reappointed, but for purposes of record, as the Parliament of Uganda, we have made a point. Where it's wrong to reappoint someone convicted by Parliament at a later date, I even don't want to discuss in anticipation. I want to be specific, that at whatever point in time, if you think you can denigrate Parliament and try to be contemptuous to Parliament, then you should get the punishment that you deserve. And in this case, I am very content that what we have done as Parliament today, in a very united way, is a signal to everyone that the institution of Parliament only needs support. If you want to be contemptuous and disrespect it, you are not only disrespecting Parliament, but also the executive. If you are a misbehaved member of the executive, what signal are you sending to the public or to Ugandans? So I don't mind. I'm not the appointing authority. I'm a member of Parliament. My role, my feeling, and my conviction this time is, if you want to denigrate Parliament, then I work accordingly with my colleagues and we serve you the meal that we have ordered. And certainly, on this date is what we have served, Honorable Namuganza.
Honorable Chimosho, those good attendance today. Usually when the Parliament is passing bills, you struggle with attendance. The attendance was good today. How do you use today to build on to better performance and attendance by MPs and ministers in Parliament?
There was good attendance, certainly, yes. And there has been good attendance in many other occasions. We are only talking about today's attendance because it is what is in the news. But generally, it explains the feeling of members. And Canary and viewers do not look at this as a parliamentary issue. Even when there is contempt in court, court does not allow it. You have not had a member of the executive do that to cabinet. So I think when you do it to Parliament, it is a general belief and a conviction of every member that it is wrong. And it is that conviction that drives them to come in an overwhelming number to protect the institution to which they belong. But they only don't belong to this institution. This institution is the one that represents the people of this country. I have heard voices of saying there are more pressing issues. Yes, but any indisciplined institution cannot represent the people. Neither can they even talk about the more pressing issues. Discipline is paramount in every institution, and later on the representation of roads, of health centers, of medicines in the hospital, that can only be done by an organized group. A group where there is no respect for institution, where there is indiscipline, where people think are untouchable, you will even send money for medicines, they will eat it.
Okay, Honorable, my last question to you in just 30 seconds. Are you worried that this, because I saw the Deputy Speaker saying or warning ministers who failed to show up in committees that they could be censured too, are you worried that this could increase the rift between Parliament and the executive?
Not at all. Not at all. You know, since this process started, I have not had any voice from the executive. If there was any interventions to be made by the executive, they would have happened, and they have happened before. On the other cases, leave alone this of censure, when the executive has issues, they would summon the caucus, would discuss these issues, and would generate a consensus. And if that consensus is developed or generated in caucus, then rarely do you see majority dissenting voices. But I think, genuinely speaking, deep down the hearts of most executive members, they were in disagreement with the conduct of their colleague. And I think that's why you see the silence from the executive. And I want to be on record, anyone to challenge me that there was any dissenting voice from the executive that we defied. There was none. We have really exercised our right as members of Parliament without any dissenting voice from the executive, and our expectation is, is that the executive will honor.
I just want to put this to you in just 5 seconds. Who is next?
To do what?
To be censured.
The most indisciplined.
Honorable Dan Chimosho, many thanks for sharing your views with us. Let's continue with more stories making headlines today.
Police and prison officers at Mulago Hospital blocked the National Unity Platform President, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, alongside other party leaders, from accessing the jailed bedridden Machindia West Member of Parliament, Alan Sewanyana. Sewanyana's lawyer, Erias Lukwago, after visiting the patient, revealed the patient's condition was not the best.
At 11 a.m., the National Unity Platform President, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, left the party headquarters at Kamocha to visit the jailed bedridden Machindia West legislator Alan Sewanyana. But when he arrived on the 6th floor where Sewanyana is admitted, Kyagulanyi was intercepted by one of the police officers in charge of ward security, who informed him that he had to first seek permission from prison authorities or else from hospital administration.
And we came and saw him as a patient. We didn't need to get clearance from anywhere. Please get clearance from prison. They're the ones that said anyone who visits Sewanyana must first get clearance from them.
At the ward entrance, there was heavy presence of armed prison wardens, deterring any unauthorized person from accessing the inpatient wards 1 to 9.
We just want to understand.
After a few exchanges, the NUP officials contacted Sewanyana's lawyer, Elias Lukwago, who at the time had been visiting the patient, to inform him about his production court warrant. Kyagulanyi has condemned the act by state to stop him from accessing the jailed legislator, who is now battling with illness.
All this is persecution, but it will finally come to an end.
Despite his situation, Lukwago says he is expected to appear in Masaka Court tomorrow.
It necessitates using an ambulance, then we do so. Or if it requires other means, then we discuss all that. So that is the reason we want to engage them and see how best this can be.
Sewanyana and his colleague Segedinya Mohammed have spent nearly 2 years in jail battling different crimes, including capital offences, despite efforts by NUP leaders to have them set free. Linda Ndoumwami, Julius Chitone, NBS, live at 9.
37 years of the national resistance movement, 18 years of multi-party democracy, 6 election cycles is what has defined NRM's long stay in power. Different views have been fronted to explain NRM's long journey, with some politicians saying the country was not ready for multi-party democracy, while others argue the system was simply misused. Victoria Bagaya takes us on NRM's political journey of 37 years.
Call upon everybody to respect what the people have decided, whichever way they decide after the counting, because we're about to count. So everybody should respect the will of the people.
President Museveni and his government had avoided the multi-party politics on grounds that it only encouraged partisan politics as parties became identified with ethnic groups. Those that pushed for multipartism, like the two-time presidential aspirant Mohamed Chibige Mayanja, are on record saying Museveni and the movement system was working to keep them in power.
Basically, we also have seen how Museveni has been changing. He came in as a transitional leader for 4 years. After that, he extended himself in power for another 5 years. After that, then the constitution was made.
Museveni's post-Bush elections were held in 1996 under a one-party state. Museveni defeated Paul Kawanga Semwogerere and Chibige Mayanja. This continued up to the 2005 referendum, when the country voted for a return of multi-party elections. In 2006, the country held the first multi-party presidential elections under Yoweri Museveni. At the time, only 2 of Uganda's major political parties, the NRM and FDC, managed to front a presidential candidate to compete. These were Dr. Kizza Besigye of the Forum for Democratic Change and Yoweri Museveni of the NRM. The rest were either running as independents or candidates for parties without a national presence. Museveni emerged winner with 60% and Besigye in second position with 35%.
Who is leading right now is Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, followed by Besigye Kizza.
It is now 18 years that the country has practiced multi-party politics, and it is 37 years of NRM and Museveni still in power. Since then, the country boasts of 4 election cycles, but how do we rate the multi-party dispensation?
I want to bet here that Ugandans will decide to go back to the movement system.
We are not ready for multi-parties.
Multi-party has been good and bad. It has been bad in that people have misused it to create enemies. And has been good in that has given alternative views to issues.
Seasoned politicians Francis Babu, Fred Ruhindi and Israel Mayengo say the multi-party dispensation was a copy and paste system that came too early for a country like Uganda.
NRM came with very good ideas when they first came. The 10-point program and so forth was to unite this country. Unfortunately, because of the forces, international forces and forces within the country, they decided that they could give us multi-party dispensation. I've got a feeling it was the wrong time.
By the way, the movement system was more or less homegrown.
And this is why I was saying, had we built more on it and strengthened it, and we kept those people.
We went into multipartyism just because of copying the Europeans, which is a natural thing, that every issue could have two sides, not necessarily confronting each other, but at least giving different ideas.
These say multi-party was espoused on values of peace, unity and economic development, and maybe it's time to go back on the drawing board.
And the ability for people to make their own decisions.
NRM's Director Information and Publicity, Emmanuel Dombo, says multi-party would mean ideology, but even those that oppose have none.
Parties are a class strata. But in Africa or in Uganda, which classes are there? Previously, political parties were based on religion. Right now, some political parties are based on wave. When the wave goes down, the party diminishes. Apart from the national resistance movement, that came with a clear ideology, with a history, and with a track record over the years now, that the people of Uganda would give it a benefit of doubt.
The frustration of opposition has also exposed the loopholes in the democratic dispensation.
When the president says, I'll finish the other parties, it seems as if he's suggesting that he would prefer one party.
As opposition generally, we are not free to move around. It is somehow restricted because you have to consult the police. If you want to have a rally, if you want to have big meetings, you have to consult police.
UPC's Fred Bill says they're still hopeful that the system can deliver a peaceful transition of government.
That is why we, as UPC, are urging the political parties to follow the constitution or the constitutional means into acquiring power. Because every time the government has been overthrown militarily, it is the parties which suffer.
Taking stock of the journey to an open political space, the downward trend of the opposition, is Uganda headed into a one-party state?
It's something that I don't want Uganda to go back to. It was one of the worst periods that Uganda has ever gone through. Because even in a family, you cannot think the same way. So even twins do not think the same way. What about human beings?
If the people of Uganda, through our members of parliament, find that it's necessary to put that question through a referendum, the responsibility is with the parliament. We shall wait to hear and see what they do.
Victoria Bagaya, NBS, Live at 9.
Right, it's now time to look at your feedback on our opinion question that we put out earlier on social media.
We ask you to share your views on the censure of the State Minister for Lands, Honorable Persis Namganza. We're using the hashtag NBS Live at 9 on Facebook and on Twitter.
Kasacha Jonas says, if you go beyond your area of jurisdiction, censure makes sense, but I hope the same is done for whoever goes beyond and above the authority.
Sankara Chigundu says, Baganda se kamwa kavi. Namganza says, anything that comes her way, Guruma Yaguze, let her suffer the consequences.
And Titus Turnawa says, that's a done deal at Parliament level. Wait for the next one, I guess. We're still also waiting on the Coffee Day resolutions outcomes from our president to date.
And someone, Joseph says, censuring her is a very good move by Parliament. Probably it will curb her sheer arrogance, impunity, and lack of respect for institutions and systems.
Right, so continue sharing your views with us, and of course, continue to use the hashtag NBS Live at 9. But just a quick reminder of our top stories tonight. Minister Persis Namganza was censured today earlier at Parliament this afternoon. And then the Deputy Speaker did go ahead and warned ministers and government officials who failed to come through to committees that they will be censured. But also we looked at the multi-party democracy and politics of the 37 years of NRM. Now, we have introduced something new in the bulletin. It's called The Short. It will be just taking you through some of the best pictures taken by our photographers. Just enjoy the shot.
More to come, brought to you by Make Your Building a Paradise. We have weathercoat emulsion, undercoat emulsion, silk vinyl emulsion, flat emulsion, super gloss and high gloss. Global Paint, a reliable product.
The ICC presses to have LRA's Konyi charged with crimes against humanity.
More to come, brought to you by Make Your Building a Paradise. We have weathercoat emulsion, undercoat emulsion, silk vinyl emulsion, flat emulsion, super gloss and high gloss. Global Paint, a reliable product.
Keeping an eye on all your balance the old way.
I got this. yeah. Balance is... yeah.
What is he up to now?
*11.
Keeping an eye on all your balance with the My Air